earlier and said there's a possibility she's going to be joining us late.
Okay, that's
And
good to know.
Carol's teaching, and Leanne cannot make it.
I saw about Leanne. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's doing a good thing, volunteering as a poll worker. So
Yes.
appreciate that. I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I do believe we have a quorum, so we can go ahead and act on the minutes from the past meeting, which I just had a chance to review. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Nope.
None that I could see.
Look
I'll make
good.
a motion to accept them.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, and let's go ahead and vote on it. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So on our agenda, which was distributed, first thing we have is an update on the activities, including the detailed design, the funding request, and then we'll go into community activities. Joe,
I'll handle that. The exhibit planning continues, and Mary Zell did before she left to go out of town. She did begin to pull together material that we get the fish working group together, so that'll be happening in the relatively near future. I think that'll be good. And as far as our funding flow and everything else, our construction manager had a meeting with us. That was Rick Miller. He thinks he understands why there was some hangups in Richmond. He was having back surgery, so he was a bit out of it, and so I think some things slipped by on him. But he, I think, has initiated the conversations to get everything settled between Glave Homes and DEB. So I think we're okay there. Jonathan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so he's working on the revised CR2, which is just a cost review too, which helps you move into preliminaries. So that's part of the game. And then also there's some movement based on the inflation numbers, what DEB has versus what we were using in the cost review. So he's working on that form. So hopefully get that submitted with another set of drawings and get us moving on to the next phase.
So does that mean moving on is getting funding for the exhibit design?
Well, for preliminaries, that's construction, or sorry, that's building and exhibits.
Okay. So as far as getting the funding, that next chunk of money from that 1.4 million allocation, it's pending these reviews. Am I understanding that right?
That's correct.
All right. Okay.
What will we be able to say, let's say in the next month, about our progress towards completing schematic design? Because that seems to be something that came up with Emmett and, the conversation about putting it in the biennium budget.
It's just to interject here, it is looking good. The preliminary from Bill Pisa, who is he reviews the drawings. So as far as the systems of the building go, as far as the structure itself, it's ready to go on to preliminaries. We're just waiting on that budget number to match up with Mike Gray's number. So we're just trying to sharpen the pencil now and get those two numbers within a range that's acceptable to move on. And then we get to continue on to preliminaries.
So I'm hoping by the board meeting, so in the next week, that Rick will have a hard timeline for us.
That's good, because that seems to be something that Emmett wants to see before he promotes even further, getting us into the biennium budget.
So what's the showstopper with Emmett? Actually getting approval to get the next funding and to proceed with the exhibit design, or is it getting it completed and submitted and approved?
No, we were told, months ago that DEB wants us to continue to push along through preliminaries and make the request to move to capital pool. So full well recognizing that, the governor's budget and the GA budget would come out while we're still working on things. But, the idea is to get done with preliminaries before July 1st.
So is Emmett in sync with that, I guess is the question. I think what I'm hearing Tom say is Emmett's was kind of resisting pending a certain point before he would initiate a bill on the Senate side.
Well, I can't speak for him, but we're doing what DEB has coached us in. And so I think getting over the crest of the hill, getting into preliminaries will be key to ensuring that he's confident we're moving in the right direction.
So you're thinking by the board meeting, we would have a timeline, not necessarily that it would be there,
Right.
but we would know within, it could be X amount of days when they get there.
Yeah, fingers crossed for it. That's what Rick's working towards.
So the flip side of that, assuming none of that happens, then we're kind of out of the cycle for this. We could be out of the cycle, right? I mean, if Emmett
we'll miss the deadline to get the governor to put it into the biennium budget that he would release early next month. But we wouldn't necessarily miss the deadline for the General Assembly to submit bills.
That's correct.
Okay, so Emmett was going to do two things: encourage the governor to include it in his budget and submit a bill in the Senate.
Yes, the second would be the backup to if the governor doesn't include it in his biennium budget, because he can still introduce those bills. He will still be, the senator in January and ahead of the deadlines when those bills need to be submitted. Yeah. So obviously we also need to get support from other senators, including whoever gets elected.
Right. So what Steve Landis was stressing was, even if we get in the governor's budget, we still want to get a bill in the Senate and the House of Delegates so that the two can kind of marry up at the right point in time. So just want to make sure.
And to speak to that, I think we're doing well with Delegate Campbell, and Greg, last I talked to him, is trying to set something up for an introduction with Head.
Chris Head.
Since we don't know him.
Right. Okay. I don't want to, beat a dead horse. So I just want to, I guess what I'm in my mind, to me, the gates here, the showstoppers are those two things, and keeping on track to get there is just, where we want to stay focused, because we can't move to the next step until that one phase is completed.
Is it safe to say that we are done with building design and that we have an agreed upon number with DEB, and that what we're doing now is just working on exhibit design? Is that a way to put it?
Well, let's make sure everyone's on the same page here. So again, just to remind everyone, we have our schematic design and our preliminaries. The schematic design is going to provide your hate to use the term, but a preliminary building design, as well as your exhibit overview. When you get into preliminaries, now you're starting to get into the details, and that basically means you've got a general building design. It's not going to change too much at that point, but you begin to select a lot of the details. So we're going to be looking at things like, how large is this area going to be that we're going to cover with green and blue accents, right? What do the windows look like? What do the doors look like? Where do you put exit signs? All that kind of stuff. So
carpeting and yada. Yeah,
that's right. So what we need to do to finish this point here is to make sure all the costs line up. And there's been some, issues out of our hand in terms of getting Glave Homes and DEB and DGS kind of all lined up and reading from the same sheet of music. And that kind of goes back, unfortunately, to Rick being out of pocket for a while. That's what he's working on. So once this new cost review form is completed and submitted, that's where we get the timeline. So it doesn't sound to me like should be any issue with that. Okay. Once we get to that point, then hopefully the timing lines up that Senator Hanger can encourage the governor to include the project into his budget. And if that is so, we still have to work with Delegate Campbell and future, we assume anyway, Senator Head, to make sure that there are House and Senate bills matching the governor's bill. And then we have to also ensure, and that's where hopefully Mr. Bryant comes in, to kind of keep tapping them on the shoulder about that, reminding them, hey, let's make sure, no one's getting this out of the budget and so forth. If we are late or unsuccessful in convincing the governor to include it, then Senator Hanger will early on introduce a bill which hopefully will also be carried by future Senator Head, and Delegate Campbell will have one in the House. And with that, then they go through the negotiations. That's potentially very likely because the governor is a fiscal conservative, and I think it would look better for him if he does not include it in his budget, because he says, no more building new buildings, and he wants to stay true to that message. Let the General Assembly be the ones to bring that idea forward. And then in the end, hopefully he just, lets it slide. He doesn't make a big thing about it. That doesn't become the focal point of what he's talking about when it comes to budget. So that's basically the strategy. And we get that from our conversation with Delegate Landis, former Delegate Landis, as well as our more recent conversations with Preston Bryant.
Okay, but there's no reason to delay Senator Hanger or Delegate Avoli from issuing a bill, is there? Or
No.
that can't happen until the session's opened. I guess it can't happen until the session's open. Probably.
Yeah, it'll happen in January.
Yeah.
Regardless, whether it's supporting what the governor has or whether it's a budget amendment.
So I understand. So how does the fact that we haven't received our second tranche of that 1.4 million affect any of these timelines?
I don't know that it affects the timeline.
It could be mutually exclusive. It could be mutually exclusive, right? It's not going to. Is it mutually exclusive from this? I mean,
we're just waiting on that approval. So money. If we had all the money right now, we couldn't move forward until that schematic approval comes through.
Okay.
Okay. That's what I needed to understand.
It's the magic checkbox, essentially.
Yeah. Do you think that'll free up the money once that checkbox is checked? We don't know, right?
It should. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
But I've learned to bite my tongue with such things.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right, but what you're saying is that Hanger doesn't want to be pushing unless that checkbox is done, right?
That's right. He wants to show that we've made satisfactory progress.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and Jonathan's been really.
So it's a showstopper.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's contingent on that right now.
So I guess what I'm hearing is we're going to get a timeline from Rick Miller that we can share with the board at the trustees meeting coming up.
Yeah, next week.
And do we really don't know when we're going to get the approval on the schematic design?
That's what the timeline's going to be.
Oh, the timeline will show that.
I hope so. That's what I'm asking for. That's exactly what I'm requesting.
Gotcha. And so that is something that then we could share with Senator Hanger and say, here we are.
I hope so. Again, I want it to be, very logical and, it comes from the experienced voice of our construction manager.
Right.
And so he's been working on it. I think he's been doing well. He's been much more engaged now than he has in recent months. And Jonathan and I had I think a pretty productive meeting with Glave Holmes. Jonathan was at Wednesday or something.
It was Friday.
Friday.
Week. Yep.
Okay. So we made it very clear that, they of course are pushing for maximum costs on things and so forth. We made it very clear that we're demanding at this point that we want their costs lined up with DEB and ensure that all the requirements are checked off so we can get that box checked. Jonathan, I'm not trying to promote myself here or anything, but could you bear witness to the fact that I made it very clear I expect results from Glave Holmes?
Absolutely, with a solid timeline on when those results need to be in as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions about the detailed design update? Joe, you have a note about the 3D relief map. I think we talked about that at our last meeting.
We got it. We picked it up.
Yeah.
So that's been recovered. We're going to store it here in Martinsville. Right now, the idea, and I have not talked to Mark about this from Riggs Ward, but because it's kind of a unique asset, I would like them to give it to the exhibit developers That is those folks manufacturing the exhibits themselves, and incorporate that not as a horizontal table as it was at the visitor center, but probably more along the lines of a vertical exhibit element, something that people can engage with early on in their experience. So that all worked out pretty well. I think we didn't break much. So
good.
Yeah. So we're good
Okay,
there.
well, before we moved on to community, I just have one quick question, and I know we have nominations for the Thomas Jefferson Awards. I think they're due by Friday this week. And I wanted to make sure that we still have in mind to recognize Senator Hanger for his efforts. Is there anything that I need to do, or as a committee we need to do to nominate him for some recognition?
Ryan, we've already received that, correct?
Yes. So if there are any letters of support that you know of, that any community members, I mean, it's not necessary, but we would definitely include that in the packet. So
Okay.
I think at this point, that's the only thing we would want extra, but it's not necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
We use those letters of support to, work with presenters to provide verbiage about the background of the awardees.
Right. That's what I was thinking. You need good language on that. And of course, his participation in the most recent thing that's under our community list, I jumped out of that, the trailer from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts that we received, and is sitting in the Constitution Park to be upgraded and filled with exhibits. I thought that event went really well, and we got some coverage in the paper.
It was excellent.
Yeah, it was important to have him there.
Yeah, and we won't be there Monday, but Monday the team that's going to wrap it is going to kind of inspect the entire exterior, and they're going to come up with a plan. They recognize that December 9th is when we want to kind of present it, or at least present a phase 1 of exhibits. And so we have several staff members who are busy putting together materials for it. So on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, myself and Ryan and Jonathan, some of our maintenance team, we're going to be up there doing a little bit of interior upgrades. VMFA, very generous of them to give it to us. There's a little bit of maintenance that needs to be done on the inside to make sure it's acceptable in terms of its appearance and so forth. And we'll, from that, come up with a plan for what we need to install to make it a decent visitor experience on this first go round on December 9th. The whole idea, though, is we have a very short timeline, so there's only so much magic that can be worked as far as developing exhibits. I think everything's going to be fine, but we feel that say leading up to say Riverfest in April, that we can then begin to make some improvements to the visitor experience over there. So that's what the plan we have in place right now. So you'll see us busy over there, definitely by mid to late Tuesday morning if you want to drop on by. We'll have this. The first thing we're going to do is install the stairs and so forth.
Okay. And since we'll have the board in town, we maybe can at least walk over to Constitution Park after dinner or before dinner at Heritage on Main and kind of show off that trailer. And
we should do it before dinner.
Before dinner.
Yeah. And so what I think we can do, I have not sent out the board packet yet. I will modify the schedule of activities to request that people meet there at the lot because we won't have a generator there, so there'll be no lights on.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be parking lot lights, but certainly not on the inside. So if we go over there after dinner, it just really won't see a lot.
Yeah, I'd like to do that just so that people have a visual on what we're talking about when we give our report at the meeting.
Okay.
Is that trailer insured, or is that covered under some blanket thing you've got with the state or something? I mean,
yeah,
it's sitting out there by itself. There's nobody guarding it, so to speak, but it is sort of an open target for certain parts of the population that may be interested in some tomfoolery, I guess.
An attractive nuisance.
Yes.
Yeah. It's insured. Okay. We're not going to get it inspected because we won't be moving it anytime soon. But it did just pass inspection. I forget the date, but it was very recent. Right. So when you get a chance to see it, you'll notice it's in very good shape. So we'll need to do, after we get it set up, here for the 9th. We'll need to kind of look into it. And the fella who drives the trailer around for VMFA is very good. He's very hopeful. But we'll need to get with him because there's going to have to be some maintenance done to it periodically. Right now, the hydraulics are pinned in place so that it's, most of the tires are not on the ground, but there are a couple that are. And as such, I'm not an expert, but I suspect you can't just like leave a vehicle sitting without moving before you start to get things like dry rot and so forth. So we want to get a preventative maintenance schedule from them.
Any questions about the trailer?
Don't forget to get your CDL, Tom.
Yep, working on it. I have my test scheduled for later this month. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
Seriously, Tom? I mean, that's a reality?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm getting a CDL to drive the school bus. So I can't actually drive a tractor trailer. It's a Class B license, but maybe I'll upgrade to an A so I can drive the VMFA or VMNH now trailer.
You just got to buy a tractor for it now.
Yeah, that's what I asked Joe about. I guess we can rent one when we need it.
Yeah, Penske, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going backwards then through our community stuff, I know we had some public hours, Len, that you hosted. Was it Len? Yeah. And you only had one person turn up, is that right?
Yeah, it was one, and we know who he is.
Yeah.
Faye, I'll give you just a heads up. I mean, he's going to come to the next one. He said he would. I don't know if he's been.
What's his issue?
No, he doesn't have an issue. He's just a little kind of out there. His name is Win Winfried.
Oh, I know Win. I know Win. He's been around for a while.
Yeah, a long time. He's done everything from emergency room doctor to PhD in computer science and all that kind of stuff. But he's harmless, but just kind of distractive. He was the only one that came. So we're, I kind of got and I know from last one Tom did, he was losing some, wasn't very active either. But I think from this point forward, after yours, Faye, we just start doing them at that trailer once the trailer's done.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I've been talking it up with some friends who've been inquiring about the status of things as recent as this morning with Sandy Green. She's planning to come and she's going to talk it up with some friends. So maybe I'll at least have a friendly audience. We'll see.
Good. Yeah, the audiences have been friendly. It's just that they're dwindling. They're getting smaller.
I'm not. No, there hasn't been any issues really. So, but it would be nice to have a few people there.
Yeah.
Amen.
And let's see, Tom, you sent us your most recent version. I'm pretty sure
of slides.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Sure. Yeah. And my thought is that probably there's not going to be a whole lot of demand in December with the holidays. And then we really need to probably revisit whether or not we want to do it going forward. Like Len said, maybe it's when we get the trailer up and running, we can have a couple of scheduled meetings there.
And Tom, or I'm sorry, Joe, with that trailer rolling in, I've had a few folks and like my niece that said, I'd love to volunteer there sometimes. So, we with that trailer in those exhibits, there may be an opportunity to actually have more open hours, building a volunteer base here in town,
My plan is, and we can, of course, ask, I haven't talked to Greg yet, but I'm sure he'll be agreeable. We're duplicating the keys. We only have one set of keys. Well, no, we have 4 set of keys now. So we'll keep a master set here. There will be a traveling set that will go with people going up to Waynesboro, but we'll also keep a set at economic development. We'll ask,
Stephanie.
No, Stephanie, thank you. We'll ask Stephanie to hang on to a set. And then if one of you, Len, Tom, whatever, would like to, kind of be an emergency backup for us, we'd be open to that as well. So that way, if we do have volunteers and so forth, for hours, we could have something semi-regular.
If we start recruiting local volunteers to be docents, right, with the intent that maybe, they could continue on when the museum's up and running, but that kind of helps build a little momentum as well. We can start training them now, start building that little team.
And some people who were docents then become donors. They're part of the donor pyramid.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they bring donors with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. Let me see our agenda. Yeah, so we went to the Fall Foliage Festival. I wasn't there, but I know there was a table and there was active outreach going on. Joe, did you talk to the chamber already?
Yeah, Chamber is very supportive. Even the most, I hate to say it, but there were some people who looked very dour during my my presentation. But in the end, they were the ones that volunteered. And I have not reviewed the email yet, but I just got an email from the chamber. They were going to take some verbiage, basically extracted from Greg's 4-page project overview, and write a letter to the governor. So apparently that has gone out. So it all worked out real well. They were all universally supportive of the museum. So that was good to see.
There still is a contingent, a small, and it's the same people that are generally against it just due to the fact that it's state funded.
Yep.
It's just on principle. And they're talking a little bit around town. I don't know, how much traction they're getting, but the more we can show progress, the less their doubts have impact.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
So, Len, have you had conversations with those folks?
Third hand, and it's, people come to me saying, this thing's never going to happen, right? I mean, you keep saying we're getting funded. What's the status? Oh, it's never, I'm getting pushed back, blah blah blah, and it's like, look, it's not a matter of when, it's if. It's not a matter of if now. It's a matter of when. This is what John Bully says, blah 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 blah. But I think with the trailer there, and it gets wrapped. That's just another, physical representation of what's coming. It just continuously shows that, yeah, this is going to happen and it's serious. So I think that's the key. I think just staying out there, keeping the word going, staying, the publicity was awesome. We got great publicity 3 weeks ago, when the city council reaffirmed the $1 million commitment. We got really great publicity when the trailer, it just got re-energized again. And then when the property finally gets transferred, that would be another great opportunity to have a fanfare, and all the local media is picking it up. So I think we just got to keep doing that. Just keep that, as many opportunities we have to get the word out. Just keep it going.
Yeah, on that topic, I'm actually speaking to the Waynesboro Game and Fish Protective Association. Len knows about this already. Yeah. On Thursday evening, and was invited to just talk about South River or whatever topic I wanted. And so I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to talk a little bit about the museum and the South River Preserve and how the
Tom,
synergy there.
Can you bring a simple sign-up list for people who want to receive the newsletter?
I can do that. Yep.
Do you remember, Joe, this is the same group you presented to last year.
Yeah, and I don't know. We've done a lot better at getting people interested in signing up. So I think if Tom has a chance to, give people a pen and a piece of paper, Mary Zell does have a system in place that if there's duplicates, they don't get 2 copies.
Good.
Okay.
Actually, Tom, I think the best thing to do would be to hand it around the tables. We just move it around the room.
That's what I'll do. I'll just make it easy on everybody to put down there. Just name and email, right?
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Okay. Are there any other opportunities coming up to do public outreach, kind of things like that?
Hang on. I know Len and we talked about this last time. We have Daughters of the American Revolution.
Right. That's like in March or something, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just did the Newcomers Club for Charlottesville. And we are periodically in touch with Ollie as well. They like it when our curators get involved with programming. So we'll find out in the spring if they want us to take another slot.
Okay, great. Lecture series, I could just give you an update. Our next one is next week on Tuesday, a week from today, in the evening at 7 p.m. And the topic is Rocks and People. Matt Heller, who is with the Department of Energy, formerly Department of Mine Minerals and Energy, is a geologist, and has been helping us with ideas around exhibits, and I think he'll give a good talk. I unfortunately won't be able to be there, Joe. I don't know if you're able or somebody is able to introduce him.
I'll be there to introduce him.
Great. And then we're skipping December as we always do, just because of the holidays. In January, we're going to hear from Amy Riscassi, who is a researcher over at UVA, who worked on the Virginia trout stream sensitivity study and has done a lot of analysis of the results. So she'll be talking about the history of acid rain and other impacts on trout streams here locally. And there's just a lot of really good data that she's put together. I've encouraged her to talk to a general audience about water quality and trout streams. So that's January. And then working on February, I can't remember. No, I don't think we have anybody for February. Do you remember, Len?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was though. Let me hang on a second. Let me go look at Jenna's notes.
I think Hal has something lined up for March. What's that?
Wasn't Carol coming up soon?
Carol Nash?
Yeah.
You might be right.
She was doing something in the spring. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
I do know we've had somebody for February committed for a while, but I was looking in my notes. I couldn't find it.
Hal was going to get somebody to talk about the early, European settlers up in the national park, that kind of thing.
I have a suggestion. Chris Bolgiano, who's written several books over the years, and I think her last one was about forest.
Yes.
And are you familiar?
I know her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's retired from JMU now, but I don't know, just a thought. I've heard her presentation on kind of the history of forests, and one in particular was how mills affected forests in our region. It's fascinating. And also about legacy sediments that result. I mean, it's kind of forest and stream combination, but I don't know, someone to think about. She has several ready-made presentations, I think.
That's a really good suggestion, Faye. We have an opening in April right now, so.
Okay, do you have her contact information? I can send it to you if you need it.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. That'd be a reminder for me to do it.
Okay.
I'm still looking to see whether I can identify who else is.
Yeah, I think it was Hal. Hal was going to confirm. I just looked at the minutes and the notes, but
okay. Yeah, I'm not putting a hand on it quickly. It was well received. The last meeting, I think we had, I think I maybe shared this in the previous minutes, but we had like 70 people in the audience and over 100 views simultaneous with the talk, and then more views afterwards.
Was that the salamander one? Or
yeah,
I thought that was
Ariana.
That was really, really fascinating. I sent it on to a bunch of friends, and yeah, got good reviews.
Yep. And we have that great library now that we can go back to and look at, and it helps us when we're thinking about exhibit design. We can just turn the exhibit designers loose on some of those talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gave a really good one. All right. We got our resolution from the city renewing the commitment for $1 million. Not sure if there's anything else to say about that, Joe.
No. Again, it was part of the whole bit of press that came through that Len was talking about.
Yep. The last item that we have before open discussion is our messaging with the General Assembly. I'm not sure if there's anything in particular we wanted to say there. I certainly would like to think about what we want to report to the trustees meeting next week. hopefully we'll have that timeline so we can share that with them.
Yeah, we can have a conversation by Thursday, and ensure that we have the most up-to-date information. And I just tossed this into the agenda, Tom. Just in case we want to also be prepared to talk about, including this within the general kind of messaging that we do in the General Assembly. So just so everyone knows, I don't think that there is going to be a lot of support to have the board meeting in Richmond this go around. We'll find out next week. But that is just the sense that I have, which is fine. So what we've done in the past when we don't do that is we simply invite trustees, foundation board members, whoever, and staffers to just gather in Richmond. And this is where we go around the General Assembly session and pass out our fact sheets and so forth. And of course, it, with some luck, leads to productive conversations with elected officials. So we'll know more about that, but we should just be prepared. And I guess we should do that with the follow-up next week, Tom, just to make sure that we know exactly what comes from this committee to the full board regarding a messaging strategy for January, February, March, whenever it's decided it's best to do it.
Well, it's a long session, 45-day session, right? And
yes.
Is it starting mid-January and then going through February? Is that pretty much?
Yes, to early March, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So
we just have to look and see when crossover is and so forth and time it properly.
Yeah. We talked about this, I think maybe it was with the CCR board, but having the agendas for the different subcommittee meetings and making sure we have a presence there to listen in and give feedback on.
Well, to even get
relevant.
To get on the speaker list for those subcommittees.
Yeah, if it's available. Yep.
Yeah, some of those we're not even going to know who's going to be serving on those committees until assignments are made in the first couple weeks of January. So at that point, we'll keep our eye on the ball there. And again, we'll have some help making sure that we identify, when those committee meetings occur and the process of making a request to be on the agenda.
Yeah, we just got to be. I think we're going to have to react quickly because they send the schedule out today, and it's like next Monday. You know what I mean? We just got to. If we're going to get somebody in the room on the agenda, we got to act very fast.
What am I missing here, Len? You said they sent an agenda out today?
No. I'm
He's just saying
as
when
an
it's happened in
example.
the past. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
When it gets issued, it's going to be within a day or two. I mean, within a few days. We won't have a week to react. And if we want to assign different individuals from maybe CCR or wherever to stand up and in support of, we've got to have them on their toes so they're ready to act.
Well, the other thing that happens is that subcommittee meetings get moved around. So they'll be in the middle of business and then suddenly they'll get caught up in doing something else and the subcommittee gets moved. So you really got to be very flexible about your timing there.
If there's a point where, Jonathan and I have to go live up in Richmond for a while, we'll do it. All that said, this is something that Preston will help us with. He'll keep his finger on that pulse for us and alert us to where we should be when.
Yeah.
So from a manning standpoint, are you and Jonathan able to stand in a committee meeting and get on an agenda and actually advocate for the funding and stuff? Or is this
university presidents do it all the time?
Okay. So there's nothing that would restrict you from doing it then, either one of you guys.
I mean, I would go with more confidence and just more, just to go knowing that we've got all of the I's dotted and T's crossed. It would be great to have an advocate, from one of the boards or at least from CCR or something like that. So that way I can always claim that I'm just here as for technical assistance.
Yeah, don't you claim that as education, not lobbying?
Yeah, exactly.
You're an educator.
Yeah.
Right.
Or one of us just stands up in there and says, and Joe has all the details.
So several of the CCR board members are willing to do this, including myself. So, we should, kind of plan it out a little bit so we can push the button when we need to. get the right people there at the right time.
Okay. Thank you. That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else about the General Assembly or what we need to bring to the attention of the full board? I think I mentioned, and I don't know whether everybody was on this conversation, but I did meet with Chris Runyon, and one of the things that he brought up was he would really like to see us say something about the impact on transportation infrastructure of bringing a bunch of visitors over Afton Mountain because the crowded highways we already have. And one of his goals is to, I guess, promote widening of the interstates 81 and 64. So,
Tom, I think we need to I'm saying CCR,
yeah,
we need to write letters, on behalf of whatever bill he presents on transportation, or if he's already got, but and make it known to him that this was, museum people kind of.
That's a great idea. Yeah. And I don't know, he hasn't submitted anything yet, and obviously won't be until after probably the first of the year or something. But
I think if you could tell him next time you speak with them that we're ready and we're willing and ready. I think CCR, I'm going to have to get a vote on this in our board, but I think we can continuously commit that the Center for Cold Waters Restoration will write a letter, and then individual members will write letters, and we'll recruit others from the local area to do the same.
That's a great idea, and I will follow up with Chris on that. I did actually write him a note saying that I had brought up the topic of transportation infrastructure in context of the museum and so forth, but I didn't give him any details. But I'll reply again and just say that if he has bills that he's going to be submitting, we'd be happy to write a letter in support.
And even if he's got a template, here's the kind of words we want to put in there, we'll accept that as well.
Right. Okay. I noticed our next meeting is in January, so we're going to be right in the thick of thinking about how to engage in this discussion. So we're going to not have a meeting in December, but we probably want to be in touch, certainly after the governor releases his budget, and be strategizing about our messaging to the General Assembly. So I guess our last topic is an open discussion. If there's anybody wants to bring anything up for the interest of the group. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah. I just want to point out that, I think you're all aware that the board meeting is at Frontier Culture Museum. It will be, I forget, I don't have the agenda from it. It's either scheduled for 10 or 10:30 at Frontier Culture. Everyone's, of course, welcome if you want to attend. We do have sort of a break in the middle of it this time. It's going to be a little longer meeting. We did make a request to Frontier Culture to kind of have an overview of their operation and a brief facilities tour. It's going to just have to be brief. We are going to give people a few minutes to maybe walk around and see some of the nearby outbuildings that are used for education and so forth. There won't be time during the board meeting for a full walk around. It's lengthy. However, they did not have someone available to do that. So I've improvised a bit, and Len Doran, who is a colleague of Len Poulin, he's a former board member, and he's also a fundraiser, who's done a lot of work around Stanton and Augusta County. He's going to provide a little bit of context along both those lines. So he's going to talk about the future aspirations of Frontier Culture, which of course is going to go in parallel with what we're doing. And he's also going to talk about fundraising, climate, philanthropy in general within the region and so forth. So just FYI, that's going to be part of the board meeting.
Let me elaborate a little bit on Len's background. He actually worked with Bob Carter when Bob worked for this other professional fundraising company like 25 years ago. So Len's got a professional career in development and also as a consulting company. I forget the name of that company. It's since Ketchum. It's since dissipated, and Bob set up his own business. Yep. But over the last 30 years, 40 years, I guess, he's been doing professional development either as a development employee at museums and so forth, or actually on a consulting basis. So he's got a lot of history, a lot of background, a lot of experience. So anyways, just wanted to lay that out there for you a little bit. So when you get to meet them, maybe you can gauge them a little bit.
Great. Yeah, I look forward to that. And Friday night, I advocated for them having dinner over in Waynesboro, so we're closer to the site. So we'll be having dinner at Heritage on Main. I believe that's already set up. I think, Joe, did we follow through on that?
Yep, we're good to go, and Len
Okay.
will join us there. So if any of you, Faye or Len, if you want to join us as well, let us know. So we just have an RSVP.
Yeah, I think I will, Joe, actually.
Tell me, it's this coming weekend or the following weekend?
It is
Next weekend, be Friday evening. I believe well, I think we're gonna have it at 5:30, so that way we can meet over at the lot before sunset.
Yeah.
Friday, November 17th.
Oh, it's November 17th, so not this
Yes.
weekend.
Not
Right,
this coming weekend. It's
Yeah, following.
I'll let you know. I might.
Week from
Okay.
Friday. Yeah. Week from Friday.
Okay.
and like we said, I guess we're going to encourage people to come over and meet at the parking lot so we can show them the trailer and then head to dinner right there. It's just a walk to Heritage on Main. So
I'll be doing the program that day at the library.
oh, that's right.
Oh, come right over afterwards.
Maybe I'll just
Yeah.
walk over afterwards.
Just come on over. Yeah,
Say hi. Okay.
we'll feed you
Yeah, I'll
dinner.
plan to do that. But I'll send an official RSVP to Mary Zell.
Great. Anything else for open discussion? All right. That was very efficient.
Yeah.
Our next meeting is early January next year, so Happy New Year. It says 2022 on it, but I'm assuming that's 2024.
That's all right.
Yeah, and actually, let me check that date.
I
Yeah,
hope
you
so.
might wanna
Otherwise,
check
we're
that.
still.
No,
wonder-
it's the new trailer's a time machine, so we're
Yeah,
gonna jump in and
there we
back.
go. There
Well,
we go.
We're back
You
at
know,
the beginning
actually,
of COVID. We haven't
I-
gotten
I-
out of COVID vortex.
I think that was a leftover date from a previous agenda, so that's it. It's actually scheduled for January 2nd.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a Thursday. 4th is a Thursday.
Right. So the 2nd is a Tuesday. It's
Okay.
right after New Year's Day. We're good with that. Are you all good with that?
For me.
I think it's good to have it that early, given that we're going to have the General Assembly, starting up in a week
Very
or two
good.
after that. So
Yep.
All right. I'll send out a reminder about that.
good catch.
All right. I'll be following up with things about inviting the board on Friday to the trailer, impact on infrastructure. Len, your question about I'm going to put together maybe a hypothetical agenda for GA committee meetings where we incorporate foundation, VOT, CCR, and so forth into those things.
Yeah.
And Len and Faye, I've got you on a list for an update at dinner at the Heritage.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, we are adjourned. Zach, you can go ahead and stop our live stream.